All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. This is the Week 18 test video. So, first thing we're going to do is this inequality problem, and the first thing we're going to do on it is we're going to do the same thing we've done all the way along on equation problems. We're going to draw this line that reminds us, do the same thing on both sides. The thing we're going to do first is we're going to add -8 to both sides. The reason why we're adding -8 is that we need to cancel this +8 out. We need those 8 zero pairs. After we get the 8 zero pairs, on the left side we have 3x. Greater than, we have 7 negatives, we're adding 8 more negatives, so those all combine to make 15 negatives. Step 2, we're going to divide by the coefficient of x. We're going to do that on both sides. So over here, when we divide by the coefficient of x, let me get back to my other color, we get the big 1. And the big 1 tells us that we picked the right value there, so we're left with x. Over here we have -15 divided by -3. Negative divided by negative is a +5. And here we have the sign changing directions. We divided by a negative number, the opposite of 3. Anytime you multiply or divide by a negative number, the sign changes direction. So the sign changed directions, and we now have x is less than 5. So we're going to go down here, and we're going to put the numbers onto the number line, 5, 6, 7, 8. Going this way, 4, 3, 2. Make sure your number line was done correctly, the correct direction. We're saying 5. We're saying less than, so the circle stays open. And we want values less than 5, so our arrow is going that direction. Now let's check our work and see whether that makes sense. So to check our work, we are not going to pick the 5. If you pick the 5, you'll get equal to, and that'll tell you that you picked the number in the center of the number line, but it won't tell you the direction of the arrow. We're going to pick a value that's less than 5. So we're going to pick the 4. So we're going to have -3 times 4 plus 8 greater than -7. -3 times 4 is -12 plus 8 greater than -7. -12 plus 8, -4. And yes, -4 is greater than -7. Done. If I picked a value on this side, it would have worked out to be false. If I'd picked 6, I'd have -3 times 6 is -18. -18 plus 8 would be -10, and -10 is not greater than -7. All right, let's jump to the word problem. So Steve bought some chicken wire, and he's going to make a rectangular chicken coop. So let's give ourselves a rectangle to call a chicken coop. He wants the length of the chicken coop to be 16 feet. So 16 feet, 16 feet. He wants the width to be a whole number. So we know W is going to have to be a whole number. We're ready to do an inequality. We know that if you take the two W's and you add 32, because that's the length and the length, that you need a number that is is less than or equal to 45. Has to be less than or equal to, because he only has 45 feet of wire. So he can't make a chicken coop with a perimeter any bigger than 45 feet. This is going to be the perimeter That's the perimeter of the chicken coop. All right, now that we have our inequality, we're going to go about solving it the way that we've been solving inequalities. So put my dashed line down. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take away 32 from both sides. One of the nice things about dealing with word problems is you almost never have negatives. All right, that's a 0. So we know that the two W's are less than or equal to 45. Take away 32 is 13. Next step, divide both sides by the coefficient, the 2. There's the big 1. W has to be less than or equal to 6.5. So now, we look at that 6.5 and we say, okay, so the question says, what's the largest width? Well, we know Steve had a rule here. He wants the width to be a whole number. So when we bring that down, the biggest width is 6 feet. If you made the mistake of rounding that 6.5 up to 7, because normally 6.5 would round to 7, what you'd be saying is, we're going to make it bigger than it can possibly be because Steve will have not enough wire. I can prove that to you by simply saying if you made it 7, if you rounded it up, then you'd have 16, 16, 7, and 7. 6 and 6 is 12. 7 makes 19. 7 more makes 26. 2, 3, 4. That would require 46 feet of wire. Steve only has 45 feet of wire. So our final answer, 6 feet. Let's move on down to number 3. So problem number 3, we're going to use a process called fraction busting on this. Now, if you did number 3 by multiplying, or by changing, I should say, the 3 1/2 into 1.5 and the negative 19 halves, negative 19 1/2 into negative 19.5, that's fine. The problem with that method is, while it works well on some numbers, it doesn't work well on others. So, for example, it doesn't work well if the denominator is a 3 or a 6 or a 7 or a 9. Those things don't go into decimals evenly. They go into decimals, and there are decimals that just continue on forever. But fraction busting works no matter what the denominators are. So before I fraction bust, I'm going to prepare the problem. And the way I'm going to prepare the problem is I'm going to rewrite the left side so it's addition, because I want an addition problem. And I'm going to rewrite the right side so it's an improper fraction. So I have negative 19 times 2 is negative 38, one more, negative 39. So I have negative 39 halves. All right, now I'm ready to fraction bust. And the way that I decide what to multiply by, because that's what fraction busting is I figure out what do I need to multiply by to cancel all the denominators. Here it's easy, since they're both 2's, I can just multiply by 2 over 1. If one of them was a 2 and one of them was a 3, I'd multiply by the 6, because the 6 would cancel out the 2 and the 6 would cancel out the 3. I know I've picked the right thing if that cancels to a 1. So 2 goes into 2 once, 2 goes into 2 once. Same thing over here. 2 goes into 2 once, 2 goes into 2 once. Now I've got a problem that looks a lot nicer, because I've got 1 times 3 over 1, which is 3, times 4x plus negative 5. And on this side, I have negative 39 over 1, which is negative 39, times 1. I have negative 39. Whew, that was easy. All right, now we're ready to go ahead. We do the rainbow parts. All right, we're distributing now. So 3 times 4x is 12x, plus 3 times negative 5, negative 15, and all of that is equal to the negative 39. Step 1, add a 15 to both sides. This cancels out. We're left with 12x. 39 negatives and 15 positives. When you put those together, they cancel. They don't combine. These 15 cancel 15 of those, leaving negative 24. Let's bring the problem right here to finish it. So we have 12x equal to negative 24. We're going to divide by the coefficient, and we're going to end up with x is equal to negative 2. That's my answer. All right, let us go ahead and make sure that that answer works. So we're going to have 3 over 2 times 4 times negative 2 minus 5 equal to negative 19 and a half. So we have 3 over 2, 4 times negative 2, negative 8. Now I'm going to make this plus negative 5 because it's just easier for me to see, equals negative 19 and a half. 3 over 2 times negative 8 plus negative 5 is negative 13. Now I'm going to make it a fraction, equals, and I'm going to make this into a fraction again. I'm going to go back to that form of negative 39 halves with the negative sign. Actually, let me grab that negative sign. It goes with the whole fraction. Because now I can see 3 times negative 13 is negative 39 over 2. Again, that's going to be the whole fraction, equals negative 39 over 2. Yay for us. All right. Seemed like a long problem, but that one will definitely be easier the second time you see it. Down to number 4. After that one, number 4 is going to feel like it just goes by with almost no effort. So on number 4, there are rainbows. So we're going to multiply negative 5 times x. That's negative 5x plus negative 5 times 6. That's negative 30 is equal to 15. Here's my reminder dashed line. I'm going to add 30 on both sides. So now I have 30 zero pairs. I have negative 5x is equal to 15 plus 30 is 45. Divide by negative 5, divide by negative 5, and we have x is equal to negative 9. The check for that, we put the negative 9 in where we had the x. So negative 9 plus 6 equals 15. We have negative 5 times negative 3. And yes, negative 5 times negative 3 is 15. 15. Good for us. All right. Sophia has 2 playlists. 2 playlists. Each playlist has some number of Rihanna songs and 12 Jay-Z songs. So R is going to be Rihanna songs. Altogether, there are 50 songs. How many Rihanna songs on the playlist? We know that's what we're solving for. And I know the way this was written, how many songs on the playlist, but really you knew what you were looking for because that's what they ask you right here. And they tell you how many songs are on the playlist. So that wouldn't be any kind of a problem. That would just be, did you read things? This has to be about more than just did you read things. So we're going to distribute. 2 times R is 2R. 2 times 12 is 24. That equals the 50 songs. We're going to take away the 24 Jay-Z songs. And that means that in the 2 sets of Rihanna songs, there are 26 songs altogether. We're going to divide by 2. Divide by 2. Once again, always looking for that big 1. 26 divided by 2. There are 13 Rihanna songs on the playlists. All right. Remember, as you're correcting these, if you have questions, you're going to go ahead and ask those questions. You can ask them after we're all done correcting. Let's move on to the next page. So we are on the back page, and this was one that really had you asking a lot of questions. So let's set it up just like we would set things up. So we do that. We've been talking about how we get rid of the x's. So we're going to add negative 6x's to each side. But then you say, wait a minute. When I add negative 6x's to each side, those cancel, and now all I have left is negative 23 equals negative 23. I don't have any x's left. Well, then you might have said, well, what if I did it differently? What if, instead of canceling the x's, I canceled the 23's? So let's go back to this. Now let's cancel the 23's. I'm going to add 23 to cancel that out. I'm going to add 23 to cancel that out. I'm still doing same thing both sides. So those cancel, those cancel. I'm left with 6x is equal to 6x. I'm going to divide by 6 on both sides. I get a couple big ones. And now I've got x is equal to x. So what does that mean? Well, what that means is it doesn't matter what the value of x is. Any value of x will work. And in this case, we would say that x has infinite solutions. There are infinite solutions for x. Don't get frustrated if you didn't get this one. This was a very interesting case that the author of the test chose for the three-step equation. As far as checking it, you know, one way to do it is just to try a couple different x's. So let's say that x was 2. So we have that equals that. We don't even have to finish it out. We know those are going to be the same thing because they're identical. If we did 0, well, since I'm writing the same thing on both sides, we know it's going to be correct. All right, let's move on to 7. So 7 was another interesting choice. So John and Kim are on a diet. John wants to lose 48 pounds at a rate of 6 pounds per month. So M is the number of months. Kim, on the other hand, Kim has 30 pounds to lose, and she's planning on losing it at a rate of 3 pounds per month. The question is, how many months will pass before Kim and John will want to lose the same amount of weight? Basically, how many months pass before they have the same amount of weight left? So we're going to go through, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make this into adding opposites. You're going to find that easier as we move forward. I have 6 negative m's and I have 3 negative m's. Remember, we've always talked about canceling out the one that's smallest. Well, in this case, the smallest is the negative 6m. So if we add a 6m to both sides, this will cancel out entirely, which is nice. That'll just leave us 48. Over here we have 30 plus, we have negative 3, positive 6, we get a positive 3. And the nice thing now is there are no negative numbers in this problem. You're certainly capable of doing problems with negatives, but it's nice when the negatives disappear. All right, so we're going to add negative 30 here, or you could subtract 30 if you want. But I'm in the mood to add opposites, so I'm going to add negative 30 right there. This is going to cancel out. 48 plus negative 30 is 18, equal to 3m. Let's finish the problem right here. 18 equal to 3m. I'm going to divide that by 3, divide that by 3. Big 1 right there. And I'm going to have 6 is equal to m. 6 months. How many months? I guess I forgot the S when I typed, didn't I? So 6 months. At 6 months, they'll still have the same amount of weight to lose, according to this. Well, let's find out if that's true. Let's squeeze a check in right here. So for John, he's got 48 pounds to lose. He's going to lose 6 pounds. Let's see what happens after 6 months. For Kim, 30 pounds to lose. Let's see what happens when she's losing at 3 pounds per month. And I realize that I need to take and just move this over enough to get my check in all the way here. There we go. All right, so 3 pounds for 6 months. So we've got 48 minus 36 and 30 minus 18. 48 minus 36 is 12. 30 minus 18 is 12. So there we go. After 6 months, they each have 12 pounds to lose. Now, John is going to lose the last 12 pounds faster because at 6 pounds a month, it'll only take him 2 months. 3 pounds a month, it'll take him 4 months. But that wasn't the question. The question was how many months before basically their weights, the amount they want to lose, is equal. All right. Down to the bottom of the page. So here is just a simple, you're probably thinking, man, I'm sure glad that we're down to this. Here's a straightforward 2-step equation. Add 42, add 42. 0 pairs, left over, 12x. Over here, negative 90 plus 42. Well, I know it's going to be negative, because I have more negatives than positives. Anytime I have more negatives than positives, I know my answer has to be a negative. How many? It's the difference. Anytime they're canceling, it's a difference. So I could just put an 8, put a 1, 10 minus 2, 8 minus 4. Next step, divide by the coefficient. And I have x is equal to negative 4. Let's see if that works. If I take 12 times negative 4 and I ask if that minus 42 will equal negative 90, 12 times negative 4 is negative 48, and negative 48 plus negative 42, yes, that is negative 90, and I can be confident with the answer of x equals negative 4. Number 9, Sophie spent $37 at the amusement park. If the rides cost $1.50 each and the entrance fee was $25, how many rides did she get to ride? So R will be her number of rides. We know it cost her $25 to get in, plus it cost her $1.50 per ride. Altogether, that was $37. Step 1, take away what she paid for admission. So once we eliminate the admission, what we have left is that $1.50 times the rides is equal to 12. $12 was what she spent on rides. Divide by 1.5. Remember, dividing with a decimal might be a while since you've done this. We have 12 divided by 1.5. We have to move this decimal over a place. We want the problem to have no decimal in the front. Well, if that happens, the decimal in the 12 has to move over a place, and a 0 fills its spot. 120. How many times does 15 go into 120? And long division is often a case of make a guess, see if that guess makes sense. Here my guess is 8. And the reason, you might say, well, of course you guessed 8 because you know the answer. It's true, I do know the answer, but I also guessed 8 for a solid reason. Because when I think about 15 going into 120, I think, well, 15 twice is 30. And since 3 goes into 12 4 times, 30 goes into 120 4 times. So I've got the 4 of those, plus I had to double the 15 to get to the 30. 4 times 2 makes 8. Let's see. So I'm saying Sophie got to go on 8 rides. Let's see if my logic holds. $25 to get in, plus $1.50 per ride. Does that equal $37? I've got to figure out if that works when the rides equal 8. So I'm going to stick an 8 in there. I'm going to go down here and I'm going to do $1.50 times 8. 8 times 5 is 40. 8 times 1 is 8. 4 makes 12. I had 1 decimal point. Yes, I've got $25 in admission, $12 in games, or in rides, not games. Altogether, that's going to equal 37. We are not going to forget the bottom. So the question on the bottom is, 8 is the solution to which equation below? The correct answer, drum roll, letter C. Now they say which equation, so you know it's only going to be one of the equations. So I should prove that to you. So let me prove it. 0.6. 8 is the solution, so 5 times 8 is 40. Take away 8. Does that equal 19.2? So I've got 0.6 times 40 minus 8, which is 32. Does that equal 19.2? 32, 0.6. 6 times 2 is 12, carry 1. 6 times 3 is 18, and 1 makes 19. 1 decimal point. Drop the mic. We're done. Okay, if you have questions, be sure to ask.